Still talking. I've been doing this podcasting thing. I wasn't keeping track. I knew it was over 10 years, but 16 years I've been doing this. I don't know, hundreds of people, so many stories. And so the question is, why? Why do I still do this? There's been so many changes. Social media, of course, TikTok, YouTube, Snap, X. So many places where people can get content. Why am I still in this old medium? Well, let's take it back. 16 years ago, I remember I was on a plane ride home from what was then my first trip to East Africa. And I was reading a book on digital marketing. And I knew then I needed to start branding myself, or wanted to start branding myself. And back then I thought, you know what? Let me start a podcast. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anything about how to actually podcast. But I knew I wanted to start. And back then, Twitter was just an amazing tool. It isn't the X or the Twitter that we know now today, but it was a great tool where you can network and connect. And in fact, on that trip to East Africa in Nairobi, in fact, I gave a talk at a digital hub in Nairobi about creating community online. And the people I had met before I arrived there are people that I met on Twitter. Anyways, I was coming back on this flight and I knew I wanted to start a podcast. I knew I wanted to focus on branding myself. And through Twitter, I put out a request. I said, hey, I want to start a podcast, looking for help. Long story short, I started a podcast called SMS, the Social Media Show. And I was doing it with a organization, a group, a podcast network called PRN, Perpetual Radio Network. I think it was what it was called. And I had a blast doing it. Spoke to people back then in the social media space. Just about what was going on and what was happening in that space. And that's how I got started into podcasting. And I did that, I want to say for, 15, 20 episodes. And this is how it went. I would drive to Mississauga from where I was living at the time in Scarborough, where I still live, because I went to a basement studio to record this podcast. There was a producer. All I had to do was show up and have things booked, things to talk about, people to talk to. And that's how it all began back in 2020. The origin story of Karim in podcasting. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. I had all but stopped. Well, let me rephrase that. I didn't stop podcasting. So what happened is after SMS, I didn't podcast for, I don't know, a while, a few years maybe. And then I saw another tweet by a couple of friends that I knew who were starting an online radio station. And I put my virtual hand up and said, hey, I want to come on and be a part of this. And so that was the beginning of Welcome with Karim Kanji. And I started speaking really with friends just to get my feet wet, get things started. But really anyone that I found interesting. I had politicians on, business people on, athletes, Olympians, musicians, just anyone I found interesting to talk to is who I spoke with. And then I started another podcast called Welcome to the Music with my good friend Greg Tilston. I think we started that in 2019, 2020, and then obviously we know the pandemic happened. And so that podcast moved indoors, moved virtual, moved in our basements, in our bedrooms, in our home offices, and did that until I want to say the end of 2024, where Greg and I decided to do something else. And so we started a project that we're just getting off the ground called Lost Venues. But about a year ago, I started another podcast called My First Joke, where I started speaking with local comedians. And that started at the same time that I started my own comedy stand-up journey. And so when I started Welcome to the Music, when we started My First Joke and this new project called Lost Venues, I sort of put Welcome with Karim Kanji on the back burner. Life got busy, work got busy, working on these other podcasts got busy, stand-up got busy. But I still wanted to talk about stuff. I still wanted to maybe talk to people and bring these stories to you. And so I was listening to a podcast, WTF with Mark Maron. And he was in the process of wrapping up his podcast after 1,000+ episodes. I don't know how many episodes he did. And he just went off and I said, well, I might as well get started. And so last week I brought to you the first comeback episode, and today this is the second one. And so why I still podcast is that I think we're all curious. I think there are things that I want to talk to you about, just me and you. And there are stories I want to bring to you from other people. And so I haven't booked any guests. I don't know who's going to come on. But what I have decided to do is every week I'm going to record something. And I'm going to publish it. And you all are going to hear it. And hopefully I bring some stories to you. Whether it's stories of just me speaking, or whether it's other people's stories that you will find interesting, that you'll find compelling, that it will keep you coming again and again to this space. I'm not interested in how many downloads we get, not interested in how many people subscribe. If you do, fantastic. Just interested in trying to figure things out and chat with you about it. Yeah, and I'll probably start publishing stuff that appeared either on Welcome to the Music, maybe some of my favorite episodes. I can bring you those stories. Maybe I'll introduce you to a comedian or two. And I'll bring you conversations that I've had with people already from the comedy world. So, yeah, I guess that's why I'm still podcasting, for the stories, for the people, for me. Because I think we all learn something new when we put ourselves out there. So if you're someone who's been listening since 2010, or you've been in and out, I'd love to know what keeps you coming back to one of a billion podcasts that are out there. You can message me on Instagram at Karim Kanji. You can email me, karim@karimkanji.com. Or, rate and review on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else that you find this conversation. So my name is Karim. I am recording this on Sunday, October the 19th. In a couple of hours, we'll figure out, are the Jays still in the American League Championship Series? Or will that be the end of, I would say, a magical 2025? And maybe that's an idea for next week's episode. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Again, my name is Karim Kanji. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.